For some people, this is a hobby. This is something that you're just passionate about and you're signed up because of that reason, and that's amazing. We have students who love yoga and pranayama and breath. We have a lot of mental health providers, so therapists and psychologists. We have yoga teachers. We have wellness coaches. We have a lot of nature lovers. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how there is this bigger lens when we look into breath that is connecting, and that oneness piece of yoga where you are connected to the things around you is a part of the breath and is a part of practicing and is oftentimes not shared. So I think the nature aspect, people who love to be outside, connecting with others, that was important that I saw that. There's a lot of people with South Asian backgrounds that were exposed to pranayama from their culture. So grandparents and parents, and that in like that absorption of what you have learned, whether or not you actively were believing in it or adopting it, it makes, for me personally, it has made me always want to learn more about this and honor it deeper and very authentically. So I think that's a very important thing. We have folks that work with like prenatal, postnatal, doula, birth workers. So we're going to talk about the contraindications with these practices and how a lot of times we don't want to do breath holds with people who are pregnant, and we'll talk about that throughout the course. Ayurveda counselors, herbalists, Reiki masters. We have entrepreneurs who have breath as a part of their business, meditators. There's dog owners here. I'm getting a dog in February, so I put this one selfishly for me. I just thought it was great. And so just kind of highlighting that this is a really incredible group of people, and I'm excited to learn from all of you. I'm excited for this program. And in terms of what you all want to learn from this, these are some things that I saw, and we're hopefully going to get into a lot of these. But most people here want to deepen their personal connection to this practice. Learning various techniques, but specifically, like, what are the risks of the techniques? How do they impact people differently? What are the benefits? We have the science and philosophy behind pranayama. We have going beyond what's learned in teacher trainings, how to incorporate pranayama into your daily life. This whole course is designed to build up to that. So at the end, the number one thing that I would love for all of you to have is your own personal practice. That can obviously be changed, but that's the most important takeaway that will come with this course for me. How to teach pranayama in group settings, how to confidently teach pranayama. And for me, that really goes back to confidently embodying pranayama. So once you feel it in your body, it becomes more natural to teach. A lot of the times when I'm teaching, I try to avoid doing this, but my eyes are closed because I'm almost practicing with the people I'm doing. So it's that connection that you have with the breath that will help you guide the breath with confidence. And then integrating pranayama into professional practices, so like counselors, therapists. The trauma-informed lens is a really important thing that I saw. And I am a trauma-informed yoga teacher, so we will talk about things like not making people close their eyes if they're not comfortable with it. In the beginning, you could see told you to take your head down and slowly blink your eyes so you're not just like shocking your senses. So small little things can make a difference when you have a trauma-informed lens. And then expanding knowledge beyond a Western perspective. So thinking about the cultural, the spiritual roots of pranayama. And then a lot of people wanted to just connect with the like-minded community, which is great. Similar values, social justice values, great. And then enhance the mind-body connection. Folks here have used pranayama for illnesses, for mental health. So a lot of different backgrounds that have brought people to the breath. And then learn from a culturally informed perspective. I'll do my best, but on decolonizing yoga and wellness practices. And then I saw some folks who wanted just to like do pranayama workshops and just kind of get creative about their offerings and how they want to put it out there. So I think I'll do just a couple more things I'll talk about, and then we'll do practice. And we're going till 6:30, so that's 8:30. Yeah. I actually extended, last time I hosted this course, we only had an hour and I never felt like it was enough. So we have that extra time for practice. How do we plan to share this with the world? Again, this is my engineering background. I was doing pie charts. But I think it's good. I think it's good for us to know that there's so much that we have in common. So how are we planning on impacting the world with this knowledge? Some folks want to share, teach, and some folks are just like, this is for me, and all of that is welcome. But the different settings that people can potentially do, we had a lot of people who want to share this in yoga settings. So we had 9 people so I'm seeing something in the chat. Love the visual aid. Great. So we had 9 people who want to share this in yoga settings. 6 people who are planning on sharing this in mental health settings, so with clients, one-on-one, maybe group sessions. We have coaching. We have three people who want to share it in coaching settings. Health, this seems more like primary care or like medical system health. And I do have a surprise. Our next lecture is actually going to be co-led with a doctor who was one of my students in our past pranayama session. And she and I are going to do the science and breath combination. So she's going to talk more about the medical stuff when it comes to the nervous system. And I always let them like, what is that? And then I'm going to do how the medical model overlays with the yoga framework. So I think if you can make it live for the next lecture, I think it will be a very special one. I'm excited for that one. So the health workers, the health settings, I think that will be a really powerful lecture for you as well. And then we have free community offering and like not exactly sure where I want to share this. So a couple of different places that we have. And yeah, let's just do course guidelines and then we'll do practice. So course guidelines, I say this because these are things that are great. And also we have people from all over the places, like people, different backgrounds. There's so much going on in the world. So I say guidelines because if it's not something you can do, there's no pressure. But if you are in the space that allows for it, you feel comfortable, having video on can be really a great way for us to connect with each other and see each other. And I think when people practice, sometimes they want to turn their video off, and that is totally okay as well. But when we are kind of together, it's just nice to know that we're in a community together. And this goes without saying, just being kind of mindful of the space that you're in and being respectful of each other and our space together. Okay, this one I really recommend. It's that this course is it is not like easy, and I have given a lot of homework and assignments, and I know that people have full-time jobs and the bandwidth of time is limited. So I say that, but I also think that pranayama and a lot of yoga things are taught without almost treating it as its own discipline. Like it is a very it's just respectable thing to be able to share yoga. And sometimes I feel like it's almost like shared in a way like anyone can do it. But it's not. Like we have a lot of we have to hold it with integrity that we are going to learn this, we're going to learn it well, and then because we're going to learn it well, we're going to share it from that place. So if you can, for your learning and for that integrity of sharing this practice with that um like depth, just try to keep on track with the lessons so that when you're coming to our sessions together, you have questions from the lessons, you've engaged with the lessons before. And then if you're ever feeling like you're really running behind, just let me know and we can make sure that you have that space that you need to kind of keep up with things. Um, and then I think I put this one in there just because I think it's really important. Honoring the tradition of yoga and where it comes from and passing that with acknowledgement. You'll see on like my course, I have a whole acknowledgement page where I talk about how I have a teacher in India who's influenced me, my grandmother. And so all of you are going to take this and go so many different ways with it. And then when you share it, just thinking about honoring the practice and it comes from here and it comes in this way. And this is the teachers that I have and kind of honoring and sharing it with that knowledge and wealth. And then the last thing I have is a note about contraindications because I saw a lot of this in the form. We have like all walks of life here. So whether it's a contraindication for mental health, maybe like dealing with PTSD or anxiety or panic attacks, or if it's asthma, there's a lot of different things that people have going on. So I will say when it comes to mental health specifically and meditation and pranayama, if you have recently had a activating event or a traumatic event, they say that you want to take it easy with pranayama. So shorter practices, and especially even with meditation, you don't want to just like sit for like an hour when you've just recently experienced something traumatic. So that keeping that in mind, if you go into your practices and you feel for some reason like you're not resonating with it, always listening to yourself and knowing that you are your own teacher and your guide. And then when it comes to asthma, um, what they recommend when it comes to pranayama is that you do a lot of chest openers. So you are opening up your body, you are doing chest openers, you're like, this is a really good one. And we'll talk about movement before breath in the lessons. But for folks who have that contraindication, before you sit for practice, if you're noticing your asthma symptoms are coming up, don't practice that day, but generally you can start to open up your chest more often in the day so that your pranayama practice becomes easier. So I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist yet. So when it comes to contraindications, do get medical advice if you're like, I'm not sure, like definitely go and find that. And then you can always reach out to me on email if you're not sure about something specific. So any questions about these just basic guidelines here? All right, let's do a practice. I've been talking a lot. So for practice, what I recommend, the ideal setup for this one is going to be something that looks like, and I'll show you the picture that I have, but not everyone will have the props for this. But it looks like, can you see this picture? Yeah. So you're essentially a couple different parts about this. The legs it doesn't need to be supported, but one of them is that your chest is open and it's not laying flat. If you can have it a little elevated, it will create more space. So you want either a pillow behind your back so you can lay like that. If you have two blocks and a bolster, you can put the two blocks and the bolster over it. Um, and if you don't have any props today, you can lay flat. That's totally fine. But if you can kind of set up in a way that looks similar to this picture, that would be great. Anybody have any questions? Any chat? Or just out loud?
Mira, for this one, I have a bolster, but does a bolster, is it okay if I just lay it flat or should I elevate?
You have blocks?
No.
No. So do you have a pillow?
Yes, I have this guy and a
Yeah.
pillow.
Yeah. So what you want to do is take your pillow at the top of your bolster and
Mhm.
stick it underneath the top so that it just lifts up a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Other questions? And these questions are good because you're going to have clients with these questions and then you're not going to know how to, this is all experience. So, okay. So go ahead and get set up. If you want to practice with your camera off, no problem. Get comfortable. If you want to turn the lights out where you are or dim them. Other things that can be supportive is if you want to cover your eyes. If you have a hoodie, you can take your hood in front of the eyes, or you can cover it with a scarf or a sandbag. Good. And just noticing as you arrive into your space, your body, just noticing, right? Even sharing can feel really vulnerable. There can be parts feel light or heavy in the body. Always starting your practice with compassion. And it's okay. Whatever is coming up, whatever you're feeling, it's okay. And we're going to work with breath awareness practices. So for the first thing we're going to do is just become aware of your breath. Notice the length of the breath. Notice if the breath is smooth or choppy. Is there any sounds as you breathe? Do you hear any sounds? Notice the pauses before and after the inhales. And just observing yourself in this moment, breathing in and out. And now starting to take your attention to your body. As you breathe, notice where your body is expanding, what's happening in your chest, your belly, your rib cage. And now inviting space into the belly. So much of our lives is spent holding in the belly. And in this moment, if you feel safe to do so, you can fully expand. No reason to hold it back. Notice what this feels like as you expand the belly, letting the chest and the rib cage be soft, just with that focus on the belly. I'm going to move into Vishama Vritti. So inhaling together, take a deep breath in for 4, 3, 2, 1, and then exhale for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The focus is still on the belly. Let's do that a couple times if that felt okay. Let's go again. Inhale, expand the belly for 4. Exhale, release. 2 more, just like that. Inhale, expand. Exhale, release. Last one. Inhale, expand. Exhale, release. And breathing in and out of the nose. Take a normal breath in and out. Now we're going to use our hands as visual tactile cue. It's going to help us just connect with different parts of the body. You're going to take your hands up towards the rib cage, and 4 fingers can wrap around the front of the rib cage, and then the thumbs can just go behind the 4 fingers wherever they land. As you breathe in and out, focusing on the rib cage expansion. Your chest might naturally move, and that's okay. For now, we just want to focus on this rib cage, trying to expand it out. Notice the back of the rib cage, the side, the front, this whole thoracic area. And underneath this area, our lungs sit. And the interesting aspect about the lungs is that they can expand in different dimensions. And so you might notice this rib cage is expanding out, down, up. Tap into the expansiveness of this region. Just noticing for a couple breaths. Let's do Vishamariti again together, taking a deep breath in, expand for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 6 or 8. Let's go again. Inhale, expand. Exhale, release. Two more. Inhale, expand. Exhale. Last one. Do this one on your own. If possible, keep the count of your exhale double of the inhale. Once you've released the breath, you can take a normal breath in and out. You can take the hands towards the chest. So I like to place them right underneath the collarbones. Just notice what it feels like for the chest to rise and fall. What does it feel like in this area? This can be tight. This can be difficult for some folks. And if you don't love it, go back to your belly. If you're at your chest, let's do a couple breaths. Taking a deep breath in, expand. Focusing on the chest, and exhale, release. As you release, just doing so with so much compassion. Couple together, we'll do 2 more. Inhale, expand. And exhale. Take your time, do 1 more at your own pace. And just laying your hands out to the sides, palms facing up. Noticing your natural inhale and exhale. We're going to move into the beginning version of Durga Pranayama, full yogic breath, also known as 3-part breath, so different names for it. But essentially what we're doing is we're drawing awareness to different parts of the body. So for the beginners, we start at the belly and we go up. And that's something that over time we can do it the opposite way. But just for now, we're going to start at the belly and then we're going to go all the way up, filling up to the very top. And then we're going to go from the top all the way down to the belly. So let's try this together. Start with a normal inhale. Take that full inhale. Normal exhale. Now, if you want to put your hands on your belly, you can do that. Taking a deep breath in, expand the belly for 2, 1. Rib cage expands. 2, 1. Chest, last place. And then exhale all the breath. As you release the breath, release the chest, release the rib cage, and release the belly. Squeeze the belly abdominals in, getting that last bit out. And we'll try that again. Inhale, expand from the bottom, belly, up towards the top. Take your time. Once you're at the top, you can exhale from the top all the way to the bottom. Good. Keep this going. As you inhale, imagine this lengthening of the spine, this natural movement up. And as you exhale, let this awareness be down towards the base of the spine, a grounding movement down. 3 more on your own. Take your time, finish that full inhale up and that full exhale down. Good. Once you're done, take your time. You can relax the hands out to the sides, palms facing up. We're just going to rest for a minute or two. Let go of the control of the breath. This can be difficult after working on the breath. So it's okay if it takes time. But once you have let go of that control, just let the mind, the body do whatever it needs, and I'll guide you out when it's time. Starting to reconnect with the breath. Noticing the movement in the body. You can even start to wiggle the toes and the fingers, the ankles and the wrists. You can stretch the arms behind you. Big yawn. Making your way onto one side, right side. And take your time to press up into a seat, either keeping the eyes closed or the gaze down. And recheck back in with yourself. Notice if anything has shifted. the body, the Annamaya kosha, mind, Manomaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha. Notice if there's a difference in the breath, the energy. And take a last deep breath in. Releasing down. Taking the gaze down. You can slowly blink your eyes open. You can make your way back. And I'll take if anybody haven't has any questions about the practice or just has like a word to reflect on it, feel free to chime in on the chat. We'll keep going, but I will definitely take stuff in the chat if folks have questions or reflections on the practice. Very relaxing, grounding. So I'll share a little bit about what we did just now. We did Samavritti. No, we did Vishamavritti, which you'll learn in your lesson, is unequal. So Vishama means unequal. Sama means equal. So we did inhale for 4, exhale for 8. And so that was something that is going to regulate the nervous system. It's going to go into the tranquil, the parasympathetic, which we'll talk all about. So we did that. And then we went into the full yogic breath, also known as three-part breath, also known as Durga Pranayama. And that is when we expanded parts of the body. One thing about that, which I don't think it's in your lesson plan, but I want to emphasize, is that it's a beginning. In the beginning, when you teach that practice, or most yoga classes where you share it, you're going to start at your belly and go up. But the natural way that we breathe is actually up, down. And so in a lot of the texts, you'll see that they start up and they go down. But for beginners who have a harder time expanding their belly, it's really supportive to start down and go up. So just in case folks have learned it different ways, just highlighting that, and that's something you learn also as you go through the lesson plan. So any questions in the chat, feel free to chime in on that. Deeper awareness of the breath. Yeah. All of those practices are under the category of breath awareness practices. So that makes complete sense. Okay, let's keep going then, unless anyone has any questions. We're going to talk about elements of the course because there is different parts, and I don't know, have folks had a chance to look at the online lessons yet? And so you might already have like an idea that there's these different parts of them. So I want to highlight just kind of what there is. So there's online courses with lessons. So those are going to be usually there's a video of me talking because this is not enough. Just kidding. So there's a video of me talking, and then there's like a summary of what I'm saying. So if you ever just see a screen with a video and you're like jotting everything down and frantically like trying to write everything down, just know the next page is probably a summary of what I said. So the online course will have lessons, and between our sessions, there'll be a certain number of lessons that I recommend that you do. So that's how you can follow along. In addition, there will be different parts of the course that say like self-practice or like activities. And this is a workbook that is for your self-practice. This is things like journaling, starting your own practice, kind of writing how that practice was, and that will go alongside with the course. So, for example, as we cover Nadi Shodhana, your self-practice is going to be Nadi Shodhana each day of the week. For example, after our session today, the self-practice will be just noticing how you feel in the morning, because that's a big part of the work I do is how are you waking up? And based on how you're waking up, we determine what practices are going to support you in the morning. So it's kind of self-study, svadhyaya. The other aspect of this course is in-person sessions. So here, these will be recorded. These will be sent out. And accessed. All of this will be, you can access any of this stuff. I think the date is at the end of the course. We have like a little leeway for how long you can access it. The only reason I do that is because I find when I'm like, you have it for a lifetime, no one actually stays up with the material. So that's my way of kind of helping you feel like, okay, I'm gonna try to stay up with this material. But after the course, if you need to have access to something for longer, you could just shoot me an email and we'll work on that as well. And then the course buddy for whoever answered the form said that they want to be paired with someone. I do that because that can help you, like if you have questions. And in addition to that, we have the WhatsApp group. So if you have things that are coming up that you just want to ask, we can always have space for that. Yeah. So does anyone have questions about the just the different elements of this? Okay. All right, I won't overwhelm you with that just yet. That's the full schedule. But I will post that on the WhatsApp. But for the next session in the online course, there's going to be a couple lessons that I recommend going through. So the first one, background, is just about me. You can kind of skip that. You know about me now. So background is about me. It's about some of my teachers if you're interested in learning more about my teachers. And then what is pranayama is going to be covered, and I'm going to talk about that today too. So it might just be a refresher. And then we're going to get into the gunas, which is the framework that I use to personalize a lot of what I teach. And I think it's a really important framework. And then the activities that are going to be recommended is one, that journaling in the morning, how am I waking up? That's activity 0. And then activity 1 is unpacking your goals. And that's just like writing, my goal is this, my goal is that. So they're pretty light activities on the week 1. And then week 2, we have practice, we have the lessons, which is all about the breath. This one's like, um, what are the different parts of the breath? How should we be breathing? What is it that we shouldn't be doing when we're breathing? Then we have 3 pillars of pranayama. And the workbook activity is designing your pre-pranayama movement, which you'll learn about that in the lessons. So don't feel overwhelmed by this. This will all make sense, but I just want to make sure you have this information. And then in the start of work week 3, you're going to start to actually put practice into your morning. So before week 3, you're just kind of like, these are my goals. This is how I'm waking up. In the beginning of week 3, you're going to start putting breath awareness practices in your morning. And this is all like recommended. I can't force anybody to do that, but this has personally been helpful for me to go in this way and learn in this way. Okay. Any questions about this? All
Maybe
right.
could you just like specify, is there a general time that like each week or things take? Like, is it the expectation that, obviously we're doing the workbook step every day and then maybe just sitting down for an hour do you know what I mean? Like, is there a
Yeah.
timeline?
Um, I should have asked my last cohort this question. But I think so. The courses, like, let's see, background, probably 5 minutes because you already know about me, so you're probably not going to do that again. What is pranayama and the gunas? I would say each lesson is probably going to take you 30 minutes to an hour. So in that the total week, you're probably going to just be working on the course lessons itself for about an hour, if that makes sense. An hour, yeah. So I would just chunk out an hour. And also like for the course lessons, it's great if you can keep up with it and do it, by the week. But for example, if you are like, I haven't done the courses yet and it's week 2, you can do all of the courses at the same time, for example. So yeah, each video it's less than 10 minutes. And I think each lesson has about 2 videos in it. So that kind of gives you an idea of that. Yeah, and I would love after this course also feedback in terms of the workload, and that's something I didn't ask the last cohort, but they seemed okay with it. So it's something that if you notice that you're feeling really pressured with the time and the workload, do let me know, and I can take that into account as well. Okay, awesome. All right, so we're switching gears for the last time. This first lesson always feels a little disconnected because it's different parts. Next lesson will basically be the whole thing. It will just be one topic. So, okay, so we're just going to do what is pranayama because I want to get us to have this like basic understanding together before you go into looking at it. And what I want to talk about is this thing that happens a lot of times when we teach yoga, which is reductionism. And so in the Sanskrit dictionary, in the text, we have at least over 14 definitions of yoga. Everything from how pranayama is connected to the cosmos and the sun rays and how there's similarities. So we look at more of like the Vedic perspective, everything from that to health. Ayurveda a lot of times has pranayama listed in terms of do this condition for dosha balancing. So these terms might not everybody will have an idea what I'm talking about right now, but what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of different ways and lenses to talk about pranayama. And for the sake of this course and passing on this knowledge, we reduce it. So because there's just no way to teach all of it. Most yoga spaces, there's going to be some reductionism. So reductionism is really important to talk about in that these are epic concepts. They're really grand, and we take that and we have to pass it down. So with that, prana is the root of the word. And prana means to bring forth movement. And there's no English translation for the word, but a lot of times people will call it vital energy or life energy. And if you look at the Chinese medicine, qi, the meridian system has similarities. There's some parallels there. So the idea with prana is that when you are born, right, everything that you're doing from blinking, crying, napping, pooping in your diaper requires this vital energy, this prana, and it comes into the body. And prana in your life is it's there, it's depleted, it moves, it changes, it fluctuates, and it fluctuates throughout your life till the very end when prana leaves the body. So it's a very grand concept. And when we look at pranayama, we have expanding the dimensions. So this prana that we're talking about that allows us to live, it is expanding this in the body. Um, so when we think of the way that I can share this is I've seen this culturally, I've seen this in like grandparents, and I've also seen this in India when you go into yoga spaces and there's yogis. It's that there is an intuition of prana movement. And it's almost, I've seen this where it's like prana is depleted and there's awareness that prana is depleted. And so breath comes in. Okay, so you're doing prana, like you're eating meals. For example, in Indian culture, in Indian culture, there's a practice of doing nadi shodhana before eating meals. So where does that come from? The idea is that yogis had such an intuition of this depletion of prana that they were able to say, okay, I'm aware that my prana gets depleted, and meals can impact my prana. So I'm going to use pranayama to regulate the prana before eating, for example. Um, so it's a very intuitive thing. And I do parallel it from my like understanding from what I'm seeing in the world today. I do see some parallels with nervous system regulation and prana regulation, where a lot of people have been saying, I'm regulating my nervous system. My nervous system is unregulated. This is like to me another lens of seeing the same type of thing, but with much more profoundness with prana. So not boiling it down to the same, but that's kind of the mindset and the regulation that can happen with working with your breath. So expanding the dimensions of prana with a human framework, and it's using the breath to do so. So that's another piece that I want to mention is that, especially if you're trained in Ayurveda or you have a background in Ayurveda, it's not just breath that regulates your prana. It can be diet, it can be asana, movement, it can be mantra. So there's a lot of different ways to regulate prana, and breath is one of those ways. Um, yeah. If anybody has questions, feel free to chime in the chat. And I hope I can see the chat. Okay, so in the Yoga Sutras, like what is specifically said in the text, it says that pranayama is the regulation of incoming and outgoing breath with retention that is to be practiced after asana has been achieved. So that's Yoga Sutras 2.49. And just breaking it down a little bit. So the Yoga Sutra highlights that asana, which is the movement part of yoga, for those who, don't have a yoga lens, is something that is achieved before pranayama starts to come in. So highlights that movement of working with the body and then working with the breath. So after you can achieve this comfortable posture, which is a comfortable seat, essentially, the next step on the yoga path is controlling the breath with regulation. Pranayama is essential for calming the mind, increasing concentration, and preparing a practitioner for deeper stages of meditation. So this Yoga Sutra highlights the importance of breath as a bridge between physical and mental. And you'll see that in the lesson. Because sometimes especially when people share breath work in different spaces, there's no prep. A lot of times there's no prep. But when we look at it in the yoga tradition, it's saying that we got to prep the body. We got to open up the chest. We got to open up the rib cage. We have to find a steady seat, and that's going to make it a lot easier. And the same goes for meditation. Within the yoga framework, it's this idea that if we just sit, it's going to be a lot harder than if we were to move, we were to breathe, and then sit after that. Yeah. Any questions here? I don't know if I'm seeing anything in the chat. Okay. So the Vedas, and I want to talk a little bit about the earliest sources. And this is something that I have because of my teacher, Prasad Rajnikar. A lot of this information is from Prasad Rajnikar. So just highlighting where it's coming from, and the Yoga Sutras. So I just get so geeked out in talking about the earliest sources of where we see referrals to working with the breath, because it's like ancient and it is so rooted in cultural practices. So the Vedic period was a time of essentially fire rituals. There were these fire rituals that needed mantra recitals, so recitation. So we had pandits who were like priests, religious groups that were gathered and that were singing religious devotions, essentially. So for those that might not have a background. And when the mantras were being chanted over and over and over again, Om Ganapataye Namaha. Let's just, for example, I'm just singing Om Ganapataye Namaha, Om Ganapataye, and I'm just going on and on and on. For anyone who's done pujas or has that like cultural background, you can almost see when the pandit just keeps going, they're like, right? There's a lot of control with the breath. So breath control and mantra were very linked, and that's how the practices came to be connected. So when these fire rituals were happening and they were working with mantra, they were also working with the breath. And so then breath regulation started to become a thing. And so in the Vedas, we see breath modulation mentioned, which the Vedas is like 1500, 900 BCE. So very ancient text. In the Upanishads, there's instructions given for priests to hold their breath while reciting chants and to not breathe during the while singing the Gayatri mantra. So you can imagine if I'm someone who's leading this group, I need to have very, very strong support with my breath. And the other thing that the Vedas say is that the exhales are linked to a sacrificial offering. And I think this is a really important aspect that is said in the Vedas, because it's not just inhale, I'm taking in breath, exhale. It's inhale, I'm connecting to life. I'm connecting with my nature. I'm connecting with my ancestors. I'm connecting with the people around me. And exhale, I'm giving back. I'm giving back this breath for someone else to be picked up on. So when we think of yoga, and yoga is like this oneness, right? This connection that we see with each other, you can see that the breath is a practice that can make us feel connected with each other. And so many times it gets stripped down to inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. It's not the same thing. Inhale, connect with everything around you. Exhale, give back to everything around you. Way more epic, right? Than just inhale, exhale. So pranayama is seen as a practice of tapas. That's the other thing that the Vedas say. It's a disciplined practice of purification. So we are purifying within. And it's a practice to let go and lighten up. As you exhale, I'm giving back. I'm letting the world take care of that shit that I don't want to deal with. And the world can hold it for me. And it's a very compassionate approach when you look at it that way. Um, cool. Yeah, and I think this component of chanting and pranayama being linked, if you have an Ayurveda background, you definitely will know that. But I think it's important more and more now as people are starting to bring in sound and just knowing the two are connected is a very important thing. And knowing that for me, I didn't really know when I got into pranayama that somehow the next step of my path would be mantra. And now I'm really into mantra. And I didn't know that before. And once you start working with your breath enough, sound becomes like almost the next thing that is accessible because your breath support has become stronger. So just a lens for anyone who's a musician as well. Any questions here? I'm hoping you're getting what you want here, and this is stuff that is resonating. What is the inclined position considered? Was yes. So I see in the chat that inclined position where we're like that is a chest opener. So you could do that asana, like you could just do that by itself. Opens the chest. Really good for folks who have asthma. Okay. All right. So the reason I wanted to start with this is because I can teach you a million techniques and you're going to go into a different training one day in the breath and they're going to say this technique, this technique. But techniques is really, it's nothing compared to the mindset in which you approach the techniques. So when you can connect with your breath in this profound way, and see that each breath is this borrowing from the nature around you, it's this connection with each other. And that the air that you're taking in when you're breathing in is actually air that the plants are releasing. It is air that the person next to you is breathing in and out. So you're connecting with them. And it's timeless because it's air that your, if you have, your grandparents were breathing and their grandparents. And even before us as humans existed, we had organisms that were taking in air. And there's, the whole science behind that, right? And so it's this breath that is the same breath that existed billions of years ago, and it is the same breath that will continue to exist for future generations. So it's really epic. And the breath connects you to everyone and it's an entire breath communication. And so if you are taking a breath in with this mindset, you're going to just attach more to pranayama. This is the spiritual mindset. This is what I'm sharing with you right now. This is the spiritual depths of it that have been stripped out. But if you can imagine tomorrow, if you go into your practice thinking, wow, I'm connecting to so much more than myself when I'm breathing, you're going to go back again and again and again and again. And you are going to be reminded of how epic this practice is. So I can teach you a million techniques, and this course will go into techniques, and that's great. But the quality in which we breathe is key. And knowing that one breath with connection to each other and connection with yourself is more powerful than 2 hours of concentrated breathing with different techniques. And then the other thing, some folks might, have heard Soham. Soham is a mantra. And what does this mean? This is this understanding that when we connect with something larger, whether it's, this idea that the breath is connecting us to each other, this is the practice of Soham. We're thinking of this growing, this I am growing. And so just something else to share there. Trying to think if I have anything else on that. And then this is not just for you, it's for your students. So we can, we can think inhale, exhale, exhale, or we can say inhale, think about everyone that has nourished you to this point so you can breathe in. Exhale, think about how every time you exhale, you're letting go, you're releasing. So even the wording will change with this mindset change. Okay. I'm going to leave the last couple minutes here. We got like 5 minutes open for questions. And I'm going to do that every session that I will have time for questions at the end. And starting at the chat, it's beautiful, love it. Yay, I'm so glad. Melissa and Preeti. And yeah, let this sink in. If it ever starts to feel overwhelming, no, there's that aspect of it. If that happens, I recommend focusing on the exhale and just thinking about how the exhale is you letting go of whatever you don't need to hold on to. And don't worry about just thinking about the connection because sometimes that can feel overwhelming for folks. So yeah, any questions, feel free to just share it out loud or in the chat before we wrap up tonight. Yes, these slides will be shared today, and I will post it in the WhatsApp group. Is everyone here in the WhatsApp group? Or does anybody here not want to be in the WhatsApp group? Okay. Well, email me if you're like, I'm in a million WhatsApp groups. I don't want to be another one. So I'll share it in our email thread and I'll share it in our WhatsApp group. How do we get into the course module? So when you signed up with however you signed up, whether it was like through a promo or it was just like you signing up, and you registered, it should have prompted you to set up an account where you put in a username and a password. And if you sign back into that, that's how you'll access the course. So Dipti, let me know after if you have any issues with that. What is the name of that site? So let me get you. Actually, maybe I can just quickly, because it sounds like a few folks have this problem. I'll just share my screen really quick. So you could see if you go to True to Yoga and you will go, so when okay, well, it's not gonna work for me because but when you registered, so here's like an example, it had you put this information in. And here it says if you already have account, sign in. So you should be able to sign in with what you had before. If you don't remember any of this, just let me know and we'll get you a promo code so you can sign in again if you don't remember doing any of this. Okay, other questions? Is that helpful? Yes, and Preeti just sent a link too. Great. Okay. All right. Do we feel good about what we've learned and what we have to do before next time? Yeah. All right. Okay, I'm not going to keep you longer here if no one has any questions, but if you want to just ask me a question, feel free to stick around. And I'm so grateful for all of you. I'm excited for this program, and I will see you in 3 weeks. That's our next session.
What day is that on?
Uh,
You know,
I think it is, let me just check.
February 9th or something.
Yeah, February 16th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Yay.